Hey guys, I am here to get into The Player, which was directed by Robert Altman in 1992. And this film it's like almost like a neo-noir, but from a very meta kind of perspective. I mean, first off, this film opens with an eight-minute tracking shot, which just feels like it's on the level of like P.T. Anderson, just as Hollywood and studio executives are just kind of having all this various dialogue. And this also just has one of Altman's biggest ensemble cast of all, interestingly. There's literally over 70 ensemble actors, like a lot of them. It's just like so fun in itself to see all these big-time actors of the early 90s. A lot of these were like big guys throughout the 70s, particularly. Just kind of being around this ultimate satire on Hollywood. I guess the film was ultimately kind of like a dark comedy. Like it's hilarious for most of the part. But the screenplay is very satirical, conveying a mystery that's very stylish, but also just makes a lot of commentary as well. I mean, it's just very complex the way that this is interwoven, and it just kind of feels like it's so crazy to me that Alden just had to come back this significant in the early 90s particularly. It's like I think in the 80s he was making interesting stuff, but not like the level he was in the 70s. In the early 90s, he was like kind of ripe. He had resurged stuff almost like his best of the 70s kind of just resurged throughout the early 90s. And this film is just really at it with all kinds of just good references all throughout. Like the screenplay is layered with noir storytelling, just layers from all throughout. It's really perfect at depicting this. And I really felt like there's just something about like restriction feeling, like just I don't know, just like a darkness about it that just really connects to a very cynical kind of perspective on all this stuff. So like, I also feel like a little Billy Wilder influence lives in the storytelling too, where it's just kind of like the writer just kind of facing all kinds of like crazy things, and he just kind of rolls on. I think also ends up being a really dark like kind of character in itself. Also feels like a big influence on a lot of like Spike Jonze adaptation, particularly where there's just kind of like it's just something like very like beautiful and uplifting about like moments of it. But then there's also like something as satanic as like Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby, like living somewhere in here too. It's just this balance of light and dark that Altman kind of organically conveys in such a down to earth and interesting sort of way. You kind of have a lot of sympathy for the characters, but you also just have a lot of intimidation about it all too. Like this is a very intimidating kind of noir expression that really holds up for me increasingly. It kind of just seems better in time. Like one of my favorite scenes of all is like opening 8 minutes where they're just all like kind of something. So like one character's literally going on about like making a graduate sequel, but it's all very much just true to Altman's like overlapping dialogue style, which means that there's just a lot of talking happening, and all the dialogue is worth it. Because you're just very in a moment with everybody. This is just a strongly recommended kind of project. It's one of the best dark comedies ever, all full of satire, but very dark also. It also kind of feels haunting and messed up too. It's like a warped kind of sense of humor that just really resonates. I love that. It fits in with the 90s very well. Like in the 90s, kind of dark comedy, satirical kind of perspective. So this just goes strongly recommended.